Welcome back to Smok'n Jay's Garage. Today we are going to change the front brakes on our Lincoln MKX. This is a 2014, but depending on your year, there should only be very slight variations, if any at all. Now, unlike the rear brakes on this vehicle, you do not need a disc brake compressor because these pistons push straight in. They do not screw in like they do on the back, so you can do that by hand or with something like a C-clamp. I'll show you a trick that I use in just a second. Also, the front is metric. Unlike the rear, which is American or standard, the front is metric. 17 millimeter for these bolts. Now, I've already went ahead and cracked these loose. I had to use a breaker bar because they were very tight. I like to just crack the top one loose, and then I'll pull the bottom one all the way out. I still have it finger tight right now, so I am backwards. Let's see if I turn this the right way. We're going to slide this out. It's going to make a little slurping noise. That is normal because there's grease in there. We're going to pull that out, and then before I pull that out, that's why I should have showed you right away. Before I pull that out, while I leave it in, I like to stick my screwdriver in the front here, get all the way in so that you are on the front pad, not the caliper, because we are not going to be replacing these, the rotors. We're not going to be replacing the rotors, so we don't want to scratch them. So get all the way in until you're on the front pad and pull. Take the cap off of your master cylinder. That will relieve some of the pressure and will allow that piston to compress easier. There's two pistons, one on each side, top and bottom. So go ahead and go in this hole as well. Go ahead and squeeze that. Again, it's easier to do with that bolt still in because it will not move. Then I go ahead and flip this up. Tap this over here a little bit, make sure it stays up. You can take that front bolt out, but then you got to find a place to hang this. On front brakes, typically, I just flip it up out of the way. It works out pretty good. We're just going to pull out our old pads. You can see that the inside pad was much worse worn than what the outside was. That is very common. Your inside pad is where your pistons are, so they typically take up more pressure, and you will wear out your inside pads a lot quicker than you will your outside ones. So when you're checking your brakes, always make sure to look at the inside one, because the outside one, as you can see, if you look on the back side there, it's in pretty good condition. We are a long way away from our, that groove is when it needs to be replaced, when it wears through that, all the way down to that groove. As you can see, we are well past that on the inside one, not even close to it on the outside one. These rotors are in pretty bad shape. You can tell that by the pad on the inside. However, they have opted on this vehicle not to replace the rotors at this time. So, if your rotors are this bad, I would recommend that you replace them. Possibly, you can get them turned or resurfaced, but with the price of rotors today, it is pretty economical to just replace them completely. Alright, now the clips, the old clips kind of just fell out originally when I took them out, so if your clips are in bad shape, I definitely recommend replacing them. Your new brake pads should come with new clips. If your clips are in really good shape, you can leave them in. Oftentimes I do, and I've had good success with that. However, it is often recommended that you always replace them. So our new brake pads, we are going with Power Stop. These are the next generation ceramic coated, not ceramic coated, ceramic, just ceramic. Carbon fiber ceramic brakes, so these should be pretty good. Depending on what brakes you use or what pads you use, make sure that you follow the break-in instructions as closely as you can. These say to do 30 firm brakes from 30 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour and leave 30 seconds in between each one. Now, if you're doing 30 stops with 30 seconds in between, that's 15 minutes worth of slamming on your brakes and accelerating. Most of us don't have a stretch of road that we can drive for 15 minutes without cars behind us slamming on our brakes. So just do the best you can with that, but it is important to do the proper break-ins in procedure for the pads that you are using. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead, take a wire brush, I'm gonna clean this up, and then I'll show you how to clip those new clips back in. Alright, we cleaned that up, we're ready to put our clips in. You'll notice that two are facing one way and two are facing the other way. So this curl lip over here and the down spout, that's going to face the outside, obviously. If you put it on the inside, it is going to hit your rotor. You don't want that. So you're just going to start from this side, push it in until it clicks in on the back side. Sometimes some of them click, some of them don't. You will be able to feel, should be able to feel that it is in all the way. I've already got the backside ones in. And then we are going to go ahead and we are going to put some some brake lube on that. You always want to grease these up a little bit. Essentially what you want to grease is the ears here. As they run inside of that, we want there to be movement. Some people will tell you that you need to grease the underside of those. You absolutely do not have to. It's not going to hurt anything if you do, but it's not going to help anything. Some people say that it prevents rust from building in there. It doesn't, and it does not prevent these, doesn't help these clips coming out easy if you take a screwdriver and just pop up on that tab, or even by hand. I was able to pop these out by hand. And rather than putting it on the actual pad itself, though, and having to deal with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to squeeze a little bit right on here, everywhere that it's going to rub. And you can put some on here and some on your pad as well. My bottle is almost out, so I'm probably going to do both because I'm not getting a real good amount on the inside here. Now, this is new to me. I've never had pads like this. These have a sticker that you're supposed to peel off before you use, and the backside's a little bit sticky. So rather than getting my fingerprints all that and incriminating myself, I'm going to leave this on until I'm ready to drop the caliper back over it. That way I don't get, whatever the purpose of that stickiness, I don't get that all messed up with my dirty hands. I think I've got enough in here that I can get this and the other side done. Put a nice amount on there. And then sometimes what I find helpful is to put the nose in, kind of twist it, open up that, that groove a little bit in that clip. And they should line up. Push the top one in here. Turn that. There we go. And then we just pop the bottom one in, and then we do the exact same thing on the back side. I'm going to go ahead and grease it up. We'll do the same thing, get it right in the groove of those clips. Alright, we got the inside pad on. Now if you take a look over right here, the inside of that clip, I got a little grease on it right there, but there's the inside of that clip on all four of these clips. If you end up not lining up the pads just right and you just try to force it in, you'll end up bending that clip on the inside and then it won't seat right. So just keep an eye out for that. Now on these pads, this is new to me. Never had pads like this before. Even power stop brakes before, even the back ones we put on didn't have these little sticky pads. Anyway, now if we did this right, this here is going to get smashed when we drop this down. So we're going to want to either watch it carefully or use a screwdriver to just kind of hold it in as we drop this down. Now, we gotta move these whichever way that we need to go so that they will come down on top of these pads. Tap them in a little bit. They're sticky. Or maybe that's what we were supposed to remove. Now they fit down on there nice. Now as we get down here, we're going to watch this piece of, if I can try to move so that you can still see this, this piece of rubber. We're just going to tuck that in a little bit with our screwdriver. Carefully, because we don't want to rip it so it lines up. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and we are going to put some lube on this as well. Now if you took your front one out, your top one rather, you're going to want to lube that one up as well. If you did not take it out, wouldn't hurt to pull it out anyway and lube it up. You're going to have to wiggle this just a little bit till we get it in, and we tighten it back up. We're going to tighten this up, and we're going to tighten this one up as well. I should probably wipe my hands because I don't want to use my brand new DeWalt ratchet driver. with these fancy new flat stack batteries with my dirty hands. Make sure that you are going, that's reverse, make sure that we are going forward. There we go. Now, if you check your owner's manual, there may be torque specs on these. I've never actually torqued them. I have always just put them snug, which I don't need a breaker bar to put snug. Anytime I use power tools on anything, especially when you are putting your wheels back on, I always like to just feel by hand how tight things are. So we're gonna give that a tap. We are gonna make sure that those are actually nice and snug. And you should have movement, a little bit of movement right here, which we do, not a whole lot. We need to make sure that we put the cap back on our master cylinder, and then your first time, you are going to have to pump your brakes 2, 3, maybe 4 times slowly to push that piston back out up against your brakes. If you don't do that the first time you take off and you put your brakes on, you will not have any brakes. So make sure that you pump your brakes a few times until you feel firm pressure on that pedal before you go ahead and take off anywhere. All we've got to do is put these wheels back on and we are good to go. So I will put an end card up over here for the back brakes, which we just finished filming. And if you're watching this channel for the first time and you haven't already, and you want to, boom, please subscribe.